introduce you. Let me just make sure we're live.
Okay.
And then I'll turn off my camera and my mic so that I'm not interrupting you.
Okay, is my sound okay?
Yep, you sound great.
Okay, thank you. Thanks
All
for your
right.
help.
Of
Your
course.
lipstick looks good.
Hi, everybody. We've got Mindy Regan here from MyNHD. And
Hi, everybody.
I'm going to let her take it from here.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mindy with MyNHD, Natural Hazard Disclosures. And I'm so happy to be with you today. I'm sorry it's not live and in person, but hey, this is the next best thing, I guess, to being there, right? So this is my 15th year in the industry. In January, it'll be 16 years in natural hazard disclosures. And I just kind of fell into the industry as being an art major for a long time and having art businesses in the East Coast, art galleries with my parents that I started when I was 18 years old. So when I moved to California, I was shocked that there was something called a natural hazard disclosure report. I never heard of that before. This is the only state that requires an NHD report on every single transaction in the state of California. So I'm going to give you a little foundation about what's going on in the industry. This natural hazard disclosure report was created in 1996. And the reason is somebody had purchased a beautiful home in Malibu for several $1 million. And when the earth shook and it slid down the hill and it had no value, who's the first person they called? The real estate agent that sold them the house. So lo and behold, it turned out buyer's agent forgot to disclose a letter she had received in the mail, basically disclosing they were in a liquefaction landslide neighborhood. So by not disclosing that, this report became born. It became mandatory to provide 6 disclosures per CAR, California Association of Realtors. They created a statutory form that has flood, fire, earthquake, liquefaction, and landslide on it. It used to be that you listing agents had to run around and pull the state, county, city maps and write the report yourself. Well, after a variety of lawsuits and issues on that report, it became a third-party provider. So MyNHD is a third party. And what separates us from a lot of our competitors in this industry is that we have been in partnership with CAR for the last 10 years on their ZIP forms. It's not an accident. We've been approved and endorsed by them. And it's because we have a complete and accurate NHD report that provides insurance for all parties in the transaction. $10 million of E&O insurance protects listing agent, buyer seller, transaction coordinator if you use one, and your escrow officer. And the best part about MyNHD, we've been in business for, well, since the fruition of the natural hazard disclosure industry. Eric Spitz, our owner, started LGS and LGS retrofitting. I'm sure you guys have heard of that before. He sold the company to First American Title in 2005 after starting it up in 1994 when the whole industry began. And he had a 5-year do not compete clause. He opened MyNHD exactly 5 years later in 2010 because he really missed the industry and all of the wonderful brokers and managers and escrow companies that he'd been interacting with for years. And so MyNHD has been in fruition now for 10 years. And in the entire time we've been in this industry, we've never had an issue on our report. No lawsuits, nothing. We have a phenomenal group of engineers that provide us with mapping. We own our own data, and it's really precise and accurate. And so I'm going to go over the natural hazard disclosure report that we have on the MyNHD website. And I'm going to show you a sample and give you just kind of a brief overview of what you should look for and how you can chat with your clients, the buyer, for just 5 minutes and review this report with them to make sure they're comfortable and want to move forward. Because keep in mind, the purpose of this report was to disclose the material fact. Material fact is what affects the desirability and the value of the house. And that's why this report was created. So are there any questions at this time before we go to the sample report?
There's none on there yet.
Okay, great. So I'm going to share my screen. And let's see, I think it's, hold on, I've only done this once before. I want to make sure I pick the right one. Share. Nope, didn't come up. I'm sorry. Hold on.
That's okay. You've got the tab up there that has your.
There it is. There it is.
There you go.
There we go.
Now we see it.
Oh, I love technology. As an art major, I don't naturally think of how technology works. So I try to wrap my head around it and remind myself how great it is when it's like this. So MyNHD.com is our website. And we have these really cool tabs at the very top. So I'm not going to open every single tab just for time's sake. But I want to explain that when you get your listing, that's when you should really get this report. I know you can get it when escrow opens, but especially now with what's going on in the industry, what's going on in our world, look at the state of California. My God, we're on fire all over the place. So wouldn't you want to know if you're in a high fire zone or a potential zone of fire, if it's in a wildlife area? You can order our report on the phone, online, email us. I really recommend you get used to using the website. And the reason is you can be self-sufficient any time of day. You don't need to order the report and have any money up front. You can order it for free. And when escrow closes at the end of the transaction, that's when we get paid. If for any reason it doesn't close, we don't care why, you don't pay for the report. So it would be good to go into, for example, sign up. When you sign up, you click on that tab, you put in your name, your email, your phone, create a password. Then each time you go into the website, signing in, you just put in that information and you're linked to our website. That way, when you go to order a report, when you get your listing, you just go over here to order a report, put in the APN, the property address, and order it. It'll come to you within about 15 minutes. And then when escrow opens, just let us know where it is. And that way, when escrow closes, we get paid. The pricing for a MyNHD report is $74.95. It's complete and accurate with Mello-Roos, 1915 Bond Act, all of the state, local, and federal determinations. It includes the tax breakdown. And if you add the environmental report for $20, $19.95, we call that the best value. And that's because it provides you additional information about what's going on underneath the ground. Things like oil wells, man-made chemicals, all kinds of things relating to cleaners, gas stations, anything that could provide some kind of toxic release into the air. So that's what's going on under the ground. This is for residential units 1 to 4. If it is a commercial property, you must have an NHD as well, 5 units or more. It's $89.95. And if you do go through adding the environmental, additional $20. I want to remind everybody, if you're doing any kind of lease, it is mandatory by law as of, gosh, it's been 2.5 years now. The listing agent must disclose if that rental property is in a flood zone. And that's because the renter has the opportunity to then decide if they want to add renter's insurance to their rental unit or not. So for $19.95, you can order that and you are protected with all of our insurance as well. The last tab I'd like to show you while we're on this front page is our resource tab. So if you need a residential hazardous booklet, English or in Spanish, it's available. You don't need to buy a report. Again, if you're doing a lease, I do lots of leases up here in the West Side, Santa Monica, Hollywood, Beverly Hills, even in the South Bay here, it's really popular where I live. So When you lease a property, very often they still want to have a hazardous booklet, the signature page. We provide it commercial as well. The one I like to point out the most is the Radon Air Gas Booklet. When we get into the report, you'll notice that every single property pretty much in the whole state of California is in a radon gas zone, usually number 2, the moderate zone. What is radon gas? So we give you a description of it, not only in the report, but it's nice that this extra tab provides additional information, that it's a natural element that's colorless and odorless, it's radioactive, that it is basically in the cracks, in the openings of foundations. You can't take it out of where it is. So you need to disclose it. This is really cool because we show you the state of California. This map provides zone 1, the highest potential, which notice that's Santa Barbara. Do you think that the desirability or the value of the homes in Santa Barbara have been affected by this material fact of radon gas? I don't think so. Zone 2 is the moderate range. That's orange, which almost all of Southern California is in that. And then the lowest zone, potential zone 3, is San Diego, Imperial, and the majority of Northern California. So let's say you have a client who moved from anywhere, East Coast, Midwest, to the West Coast, and they freak out when they see they have a radon gas moderate zone 2. Show them this tab. Show them the whole state of California. And the best part is show them the whole country. Very often people don't realize they did live in a place with radon gas in the past. So isn't this great that you can see the whole country and that really there's no place to go that does not have radon gas? So I always like to show that because I think it's really important people see where they live and where they think they want to move. Are there any questions?
Yes, George asked, can anyone sign into the website, including buyers and sellers?
Yes, absolutely, they may. Because you don't have to be a member signing in just to get on that tab. You can do like I just did and show the MyNHD website. They can go in here and look at a sample report, residential or commercial. So we're going to click now on the residential and environmental report that we're going to go over. And keep in mind that it's mandatory. Nothing is exempt. So single family homes, townhomes, condos, any kind of duplex. If you have a mobile home, if you have a home that someone's buying like in Venice for $1 million and it's a tear down. There was this argument in the office prior to COVID. We don't need an NHD report, we're tearing it down. Well, it doesn't matter what the dwelling is, right? The house. It matters what is on the property. That's why flood zone, fire zone, liquefaction, landslide. It's all about the land. So here's our invoice, the very first page we provide in our report. We show you the property address, the APN number, who ordered it, billing to escrow, and the property information. Here is Civil Code 1103. That is the civil code created on the NHD report. Escrow loves us because all I have to do is rip off the bottom of the sheet here and turn in a check at the end of the transaction when it closes for either $74.95 or $94.95. So this is the signature page from CAR, California Association of Realtors. It is the NHD Disclosure Statement. Every single company creating this report must use this. The number one thing, if you forget everything today that I say, remember one thing. This whole industry of NHD is not regulated. What does that mean? That means that all the reports written, they're not all the same. Everybody can use the same statutory form here of the 2 fire, 2 flood, 2 earthquake. However, they are not all pulling from the same information. We all have access to state, county, city maps, but not all companies use those. Not all companies provide local disclosures because they're not mandatory by law, but we feel it's an inaccurate, incomplete report if that's not included. The other thing that's really important to know is a lot of people don't provide taxes, or they have like a little checklist. Do you want anything other than this NHD report? Or, the statutory form. So this is why our report is considered complete and accurate per Civil Code 1103.7, because it does provide all of this information. So notice it says, the transfer and their agents or the third party consult and disclose all the information that is pertaining to this property. So you have a flood zone if a dam breaks, high fire severity zone, high fire if you're in a wildlife area. And I want to point out, we don't determine these hazardous zones. This is all pulled from state, county, city maps. The local map is what always supersedes state and county, because keep in mind, if you're in Beverly Hills, if you're in Long Beach, if you're in Manhattan Beach, all of these local areas have more money than the county of LA or the state of California, right? So the maps are updated more frequently. MyNHD has a whole department, and all they do is look constantly, every day. Is there any new disclosure on any of the 158 counties in the state of California? And we are always updating our maps. So notice here, who decides if it's in a flood zone? Federal Emergency Management Agency, right? Yeah. Or if you've got a wildlife zone, it's the Department of Forestry. So it's the government agencies who are determining these hazardous zones, and we are just pulling them from the maps. Notice here you have earthquake zone separated by seismic activity, and that's because you don't need an earthquake to have seismic activity occur. See how you have liquefaction and landslides separated instead of all clumped together? That's because you could have a liquefaction zone and not be in a landslide zone, as you can tell. It's also important to note that the map is not yet released by the state because it has to be there in case there's property being built and it's not on the map. What do? You can't say you're in or out of a hazardous zone if you're not positive. So that's why if it's not on the map, we check that box. This is a signature of the seller, signature of the seller's agent. At the bottom, it's the signature of the buyer. Notice there is no place for the signature of the buyer's agent. Some offices do require you to sign it to get paid at the end of the transaction, but it's not required by law. This is important to pay attention to. The transferor, who is the seller, transferee is the buyer. We ask permission from CAR. Don't laugh. Can we add the word seller buyer to those words? Because a lot of agents, even the seasoned agent, they don't know which side they're on sometimes. This is to help you out. So it is the transferor or the seller and their agents that have to acknowledge they've exercised good faith in the selection of a third-party provider, like us, per Civil Code 1103.7. So it's a law. You have to provide this within 7 days of the accepted offer to the buyer. That's because the buyer has 3 days or 5 days, depending on how this report is delivered, to look it over and decide if they're going to move forward on the transaction, or because of material fact that is affecting the desirability and the value of the house, they can pull out of this transaction for any reason. So that's why it's so important to follow the rule and give this report within that first week of opening up the transaction, because wouldn't it be awful to get it like today at noon? You're supposed to close on Friday. You're not giving your buyer 3 days that they have. What if, here's a scenario that's occurred. What if, let's say, Trisha, my buyer, she has to close by Friday. The movers are coming the weekend. Everything's set up. She's fine with looking at this report today and signing off on it. So she asks escrow and the agent, can't we just do this on Friday even though I don't have 3 full days? So if you write an addendum in escrow to extend this, if anything ever happens later, God forbid, the client buyer wants to get out of the house, have an attorney look at all their paperwork. These are the little things that people look for in a non-regulated industry. Did you give your client by law the 3 days they deserve to get this NHD report? And if they didn't, it could be a little loophole. So it's so important to follow these very simple and easy directions of law to ensure that you're protecting your client and yourself. It's huge. Do you know that the state of California, and this is the statistic of last year, I don't have this year's statistic from CAR, 43% of all the lawsuits across the entire nation in real estate came from California, and most of them are from Southern California. So always do the right thing and make sure that you're providing everything that you can. And that's why I don't want you to ever give this report to your buyer without going over it for 5 minutes. Because look what happens when the buyer signs it. Right above the buyer's signature, it says, with the signature below, the transferee, which is the buyer, acknowledges they've read, received, and understand everything in this report. So if, let's say, escrow orders this and sends it to you and your client, and the client just looks it over, signs it, doesn't look it over, signs it, or walks into escrow because they're signing other documents, and escrow says, hey, by the way, while you're here, let's go ahead and sign the NHD and keep all the paperwork moving. If you buyer's agents haven't received this and reviewed it with your own buyer for 5 minutes, then you've really not done your fiduciary duty to help them understand it before they sign it. Because once they sign it, it's too late. Any questions on that? Here's another thing to keep in mind. When you're the buyer's agent and you're writing out your RPA on the Sierra zip forms, it's not an accident that MyNHD is the very first drop-down box. We've been there 10 years. And the reason it's so important for you to choose your NHD provider, hopefully MyNHD, is because when you do, you now have written in your contract, the RPA, what you want for your buyer. So let's say Kim, listing agent, goes online, orders a cheap little NHD report that you can get for 50 bucks. She doesn't really realize that it doesn't have insurance that protects everybody. She doesn't realize there's no taxes or Melrose because she's doing her fiduciary duty by providing this one single page of the CAR statutory form. If she goes to give that NHD report to you, buyer's agent, and you left your contract RPA blank, or you write seller's choice like a lot of people do, a lot of buyer's agents, especially now when there's so many multiple offers on the same property, they get really nervous. Choose me, right? You get nervous if you choose your services that maybe they won't select you. Here's the one thing you want to remember. When the natural hazard disclosure industry is not regulated, that means that if you don't choose on your RPA contract who you want to represent your buyer, you must accept by law any report they want to give you, even if it's not complete and accurate, even if there's no insurance. Whereas if you write in your contract, MyNHD, then you can say, I'm sorry, Kim, listing agent, I wrote in my contract, MyNHD, it's $74.95. I know you wanted to spend 50 bucks online, but I'll pay the $25 difference at the end of escrow. This is the report I want for my client. MyNHD has no issues on their report for 26 years, and they're in partnership with CAR. So I choose them for the most complete, accurate report to protect my client. Everything is negotiable in real estate. You guys negotiate price all day long. So don't let a little NHD report get in your way to protect you and your client. Huge, huge, huge. Any questions?
You did have one from George Morales. He asked, do you recommend landlords pull these reports as well?
No. You only need it when you are doing a listing and you're the listing agent. Then it's your responsibility by law to provide it to the buyer. So if you're a landlord, they want to get the flood report if they're going to be doing any kind of leases. But when you sell it, that's when it's mandatory by law. Good question, George. Thank you. This is really cool. This is our summary page. Notice it has all of the disclosures in the whole report, about 40 of them. And if you are in the zone that's hazardous and the box is checked yes, then that's the page you should show your client and discuss. Anything that's not in the zone, who cares, right? So notice that there's a URL code. The URL code is where when we click on all the maps, which I'll do that right now. All the maps in the entire report that are linked to this APN number and property address will come up. So thank God for Google, because they're perfect. It used to be that the maps that were hand-drawn, maps that were in a lot of other companies' reports, they were not to scale. If you, listing agent, provided a report with a map not to scale, and then the buyer's agent tries to explain to the buyer how far they are from a property in a hazardous zone, you actually create liability for yourself. It's not a good thing. So the great thing about this is that all the Google Maps relate exactly to this exact APN number, and they're perfect. So let me go to a map, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So scroll down. I'm going to look at the third page. If an area is in a potential dam flood zone due to a dam breaking, that's what's called an inundation dam. You not only get the name of the dam listed, MyNHD provides you with that, but if there is a map, and there is, we show you the name of the dam that's going to break. We show you where the house is, and then we show you how far out it goes if the dam were to break. So everywhere throughout the whole report are all of these maps with blue links. It's really fabulous. And the blue link is what will guide you to the map, like we just did right here. We also have, for example, under FAA approved landing facility, are you within 2 miles of an FAA approved landing facility? Yes or no? So who, of course, decides? FAA. Now, FAA has a blue link, faa.gov/airport/environmental/airport noise. You click on this, you get all kinds of fantastic information. You also click on view the map. It shows you, like we just saw, here's the house, here's far out the map on the map that this particular airport presides. People always ask me, what is a private versus a public airport? Why would something private like Hughes Corporate Building or Ritz-Carlton Hotel be listed? They're not airports. Well, these are heliports. So anytime there's a heliport within 2 miles of the property, that gets disclosed as well as an airport because of noise, pollution, etc. So we also provide you with MyNHD report. How far is it from the property? So all of these additional accurate information about what's going on with the property is just to help your client, the buyer, have more information, which I think is fantastic. Not all companies provide links. Not all companies provide the perfect map or all of these disclosures. So that's why you really want to know the difference between the reports. Did you guys know that the state of California has a really cool rock called serpentine? It's called that because it looks like a snake. It's a rock with a real cool green line running through it, like serpentine. The problem with it is that if you remove it from the property, it lets off naturally occurring asbestos. Not good. So it must be disclosed. So here's a blue link where if you want to see from California Environmental Protection Agency, more information about the naturally occurring asbestos rock, serpentine. We give you a little bit of information on all of our disclosures that it is naturally occurring fibrous material. It's in rocks, it's in soil, it's in foothills, it's in mountains, driveways, paved or not. It's in a lot of places, so you can't take it out. So what if your client, the buyer, said, I really want to buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. They look around, they can't afford it. So they get a 3-bedroom 1. And they're trying to decide, yeah, can I build the pool, the bathroom, whatever they want? This is why this report is crucial. It is your fiduciary duty as the buyer's agent to know the needs of your client. So if you know they want to build, but you see you have this naturally occurring asbestos rock, or you have a critical habitat or plant that the state of California protects, if an endangered species is on your property or the naturally occurring asbestos rock and you can't remove it, maybe you can't build. What if you are in a liquefaction landslide area? Do you know if you can build? Are you an engineer? Are you a soil specialist? No, I don't think so. So this is where you buyer's agents want to share with your client that they might want to get an expert to come out and check on what they want to do on that property, so that later when they go to build, they don't have a hissy fit that it's going to cost them $90,000 for a retaining wall to build a bathroom versus maybe a retaining wall that would have cost $40,000 or whatever amount. Here's another example. What if you have the critical habitat on your property and you don't disclose it? For example, California protects all these endangered species. So here's a great example of what happened 12 years ago, 13 years ago. A builder purchased this gorgeous property just above Santa Barbara. It was overlooking the ocean. He was going to create this phenomenal development, beautiful vistas, until he drained the two baby ponds of three-legged frogs. The three-legged frog lived there. That was his habitat. And because he's endangered, the state of California said, no, you're not allowed to do that. He was fined $2 million, and they will never be able to build. The builder sued. I don't know what happened, but all I know is this has been in our reports now for about 12 years, 14 years. So keep in mind that it's really important to look at this report and determine what zone you're in or out of and how it might affect your client, building, etc. Petrochemical gases are really important, obviously. Gas, oil, volatile materials from refineries and oil production sites. We provide links for all kinds of methane gas, whether you're in Orange County or LA. We provide this link on gas and hazardous transmission pipelines because gas lines blew up in Northern California about 12, 14 years ago. 22 people died, and that's how that got into the report. Keep in mind, each disclosure that gets added to this report, and it gets bigger and bigger every year, comes from lawsuits or the natural hazard that occurred where people died. And that's usually how it gets in the report. Sad but true. While I'm thinking about it, let me just point out, somebody asked me yesterday, are the fires that are happening now going to be on the maps for us to know if someone was buying something in a neighborhood that's on fire? What do you guys think? Do you think the state of California or the city or the county has had time to update the maps? We may not even have new maps from Paradise when it was on fire. Because keep in mind, they don't update them every year. It depends. Every county is different. So a lot of times, it's not even disclosed yet for years. And this is why that TDS is crucial. The transfer disclosure statement is where the seller discusses everything going on their property, right? So you listing agents need to be on your game to remember that everything they can disclose about what's happened on the property or in their neighborhood is real important, because sometimes it's not always disclosed on that map as fast as you'd like it to be. So keep that in mind. And that's why getting this report in the beginning, when you get your listing, is really perfect. Because if you want to know if you're in that fire zone, you want to know what the insurance might cost. Let me give you another example while I'm thinking about it. Right before COVID, about the first week of March, I was giving a presentation in a Hollywood Hills office, and I heard a great presentation from an all-state representative, and he was really phenomenal because he was able to provide insurance on a home in Malibu for only $42,000 a year after it had fallen out of its first escrow, charging $128,000 a year. So think about that. Property goes up on a listing, you get offers, goes into escrow, they try to get the insurance, and it falls out because they can't afford $10,000 a month or more. A fire insurance alone. You want to live in Malibu in a gorgeous environment, you're going to pay. But how much? So getting the right quote and making sure that the next client buyer going into that transaction in escrow knows up front, look what you could pay in insurance. 44 grand a year in fire alone is a big difference between 128 grand, right? So keep these things in mind when you're working on your transactions. These are disclosure explanations because you don't need to be the expert, we are. And we're always here available to help you. I can help, our customer support can help, and we even have a real estate attorney that's available, as well as our engineers if we need to talk to your client for free. But it never really even gets that far because you can't change the disclosure and the hazard you're in. So I hate to say it, but it is what it is. You're in the zone, you're out of the zone, and you can't change it. So the customer is either okay with it or they're not. So we're here to help you move forward that transaction. Here is a great explanation of Mello-Roos. Mello-Roos is created when there's a new development. So for example, for those of you who know of Playa Vista, for example, that's near Playa del Rey, Marina del Rey, and the airport. When that community was built and they started with each division, as they increased each division and they needed more roads, more recreational areas, more sewer lines, drain lines, everything you can think of for a neighborhood to exist. These are all of the kinds of tax liens that are going to be on your property taxes because each person owning property helps pay for these things. So notice what it says. You know, improvements with Mello-Roos may include, but not limited to, roads and schools, police and fire departments. The things that are really big ticket items is what goes into Mello-Roos. So that's why I always like to point out this lasts for 2049, 2050. So 30 years, the life of the loan is how long this Mello-Roos is going to last. Some properties are only $2,500 a year. Other properties I've heard are as much as $10,000, $20,000, depending on the property of the home. So please keep that in mind that you point that out to your client if they have a Mello-Roos. Some people are on fixed incomes and it's not comfortable for them to have that extra amount per year. 1915 Bond Act, this particular property didn't have it, but it's usually really small ticket items. More like a little recreational area, and they tend to be cheap, meaning $20 a year up to $100. Not usually that expensive, and you find it mostly in LA. Not to get excited over taxes, but I love to point out how easy it is to read our tax bill. The breakdown is itemized per each individual assessment. So notice you've got the Mello-Roos on here and every single item to the penny. And that way your client, the buyer, doesn't have to wonder where all their money goes. We even have something as easy as a tax calculator. This is awesome. You put in the price of the home, you put in the tax rate. Where do you get that? Depends on the month that you're selling the house. So each month has its own tax table, and you put it into the appropriate slot, and you click on the little blue link right here, and voila, you have the exact price on what it is for that home. Up to date. It's great. We give you information about supplemental taxes. What does it mean? What if there's a transfer fee? If there is a transfer fee, who pays it? How do you determine a transfer fee? How much is it? We give you the link of California City Finance so that you can click on it and gather whatever information that you need. They created it for us, and they are the best in the state, and that's why we use them. Oops, sorry. Here we go. The only blue link in this entire report that you cannot touch is Megan's Law. Please never look at that website. And here's why. If you do you know that you need to disclose to everyone who wants to make an offer on that property where all those bad guys are? Don't go there. Let your buyer or potential buyer check it out. So here is the website. And in addition to that, we even give you an email so that, let's say you click on, the buyer clicks on the website and they flip out that there's, oh my God, people everywhere. So you can have them check out a specific person and gather more information. But here's something I'd like to suggest that a broker told me years ago that I thought was really helpful. Let's say that you have a buyer that gets really upset. There's so many sex offenders in the neighborhood they want to live in. They're really nervous now. Ask them to go on the website and look at where they live today. See what their neighborhood today looks like. Then, if they're not happy still, tell them to pick an address in the most perfect neighborhood they'd like to live in that zip code, and then see how many sex offenders come up. And it's not to be sarcastic or anything. It's to say, oh my God, they're everywhere. Where are you going? But they don't have them. So that's just hopefully a little bit helpful. Conservation standards in California are really important. And so the state created from the Department of Energy standards that since 1992, we would have a minimum seasonal energy efficiency ratio. That's called SEER. So this is what they did. They decided that from 1992 to 2006, you had to meet the SEER requirement of 10. Each year it gradually went up. The last year they changed it was January 2015. That's the most up to date so far. The SEER rating now is at 14. So what that means is the law does not require a seller to replace an existing equipment to 14. But if it dies, it must be upgraded to a SEER 14. So what that means is if the air heating unit dies, upgraded to SEER 14, the ductwork must now be compatible. The reason this became a disclosure is that somebody had purchased a home, I want to say at least 10, 12 years ago. Within a week of moving in, the air conditioner died. It was in the middle of July. It was hot. And they came out to fix it. They had to replace the whole unit. It was about $15,000 for the air heating unit, but it was like $75,000 extra dollars for the ductwork to now be compatible to the SEER rating of 14. The new buyer sued everybody and won because this had just become a law and nobody knew it. So this is in our report. And the reason I suggest that anytime you are having the property inspector do the whole property inspection of the home, ask what is the life expectancy of the air heating unit. If it looks like it's on its last leg, ask what is the ductwork going to cost approximately to have it be met to this minimum SEER requirement of 14. And that way, if you find out it's going to cost X amount of dollars, maybe you can negotiate a better deal if it's on its last leg. It's just something to be aware of, especially on older homes. Any questions about that? Okay, so here are energy standards. Again, this is updated. That's the last time California updated it in 2013. Again, we provide you with a blue link. We give you a blue link if there are any kind of tax credits as well. This is always my favorite, mold, the four-letter word. Mold has only been around for 1 billion years. So why did it become like the word to use in the last 20 years in real estate? It was to create a lawsuit, and they did a great job scaring the hell out of people. So if you see any kind of discoloration or odor, growth on the walls, It doesn't matter what you think it is. Don't call it out as mold unless you are the mold expert. Because if you're not an expert and you use that four-letter word, I've heard nightmare stories that, it could really mess up a deal. So mold can be remediated. Here's a link. Here's extra information. I've known many, many homes that have had it, and they were able to go in, clean it up, and still sell the house. Even if it was contaminated in certain areas, they could thoroughly and properly remediate it. So just keep that in mind. Isn't it sad that we have to have methamphetamine contamination into our report? There are so many meth labs in the state of California that have blown up that it became mandatory as of 2005 in the Cleanup Act. Crazy. Abandoned wells and oil wells, again, are in the report. Here's another description. Same with the naturally occurring asbestos. Radon gas, as we discussed on that booklet, here it is on the report. Here's a click to the booklet. And then if there's a wood burning stove, you need to disclose it because of the Clean Air Act. So that is our residential report. Any questions? Okay. The environmental report, you'll notice, looks the same with our URL code to click on every single map available relating to this property. Notice all of the different kinds of disclosures on the environmental report are things like landfills and waste transfer stations, leaking underground storage tanks, the Conservation Recovery Act, toxic release inventory, radiation sites, any kind of spills and leaks that are in the middle of a cleanup or investigation, or if it's already been completed, we show you all the stages that it's in, pollution of air, noise, etc. A lot of fun stuff, right? So I love it when people call and say, I'm looking at the environmental report along with the NHD. Do you think I should be worried about the ones that are checked yes? Everyone has a comfort zone. Some people are a little more excitable about living in a flood zone or a fire zone or at the end of the property, at the at the end of the mountain, at the edge on stilts, and other people aren't, right? Some people's homes burn down from fire, and they turn around, they build exactly in the same spot, or the earth shook, house slid down the hill, and they want to build exactly in the same spot. Other people are like, nope, I'm good, going somewhere else. Whatever your client feels, we need to appreciate and just help them overcome it. And sometimes you can't, depending on what's going on under the ground. Some people have gotten really worried, but can I fix it and change it? No. So you disclose it the best you can, like this, and provide all the information possible. And honestly, I've hardly heard of people not moving forward on a transaction because of NHD, but it can happen. So that's why having the most complete, accurate report with all these links to help your client help themselves make a decision, and you are just that referral to all these links to help guide them. And we're here to help you if you need that. So notice there's just everything related to this property under the ground. So I'll just scroll down and you can kind of get an idea. I recommend maybe later today, tomorrow, while it's fresh in your mind, go back to our website, look at the sample report, be familiar with it, play around with all the links except Megan's Law, click on them, see where they go, see what's provided, just one time, make yourself feel comfortable. And then I promise you, it'll be easier when you go to talk to your client. Just take 5 minutes to review it, not detailed like I'm doing today with you so that you feel more comfortable, but just showing them. Does this make sense to anybody? I mean, even me, I don't know what all this means. I'm not an engineer, but I can at least click on the link and understand whatever toxic release might be under the ground that might affect me. So same here. We give what was going on in Playa Vista or at Hughes Aircraft, the military evaluation, what's close to the property. So we give the address, the site number, the distance, Is it open? Is it completed? It's really valuable, I think, to help your client just kind of see everything around you. That's why when you see a gas station that has a fence around it, they're probably in the middle of a cleanup. So check this out. Look at all these different stations, dump station, and again, completed, open, or, where are we? So the Marina Waterside Shopping Center, maybe something leaked over there. Now it's fixed. So that's why all buyer's agents, I recommend always asking for the NHD and environmental for 1995. If the listing agent says, no, I'm not paying for that environmental for 20 bucks, I'm sure you would be happy to pay it at the end of escrow, just to make sure your client has everything they can on the property. So that leads me to a lot of people ask, well, if I'm the listing agent, shouldn't I get this environmental along with the NHD so I have all the maps and everything provided? No. California Association of Realtors attorneys, like Dov Hutchison and a lot of attorneys that we work with, they all seem to say, why would you over disclose something that's not required by law just because it's available? Wait and have the buyer's agent ask for it in the RPA contract. And then if they ask for it, of course, provide it and pay for it. But if they don't want to, it's okay. Buyer's agent can pay. It's that you don't have to disclose it without being asked for environmental only. So I hope that's clear. So check it out. Oil wells, pipelines, just everything relating to this property is available to you and your client. So noise pollution, air pollution, light pollution. And then our terms and conditions is the best. We clearly state in black and white, every single person is covered in this transaction. The $10 million of E&O protects all of you. Buyer, agent, listing agent, broker, PC if you use one, escrow, and of course the best part, no issues on our report ever. Yay! So, are there any questions? Anybody? So here's our whole disclosure. And that's the earthquake disclosure statement. Do you have the water heater brace? Is the foundation bolted, etc.? So that's the end of my report. Any questions?
I don't see any questions in Facebook, but we can go ahead and in the comments section, we can put your contact information.
Sure.
If somebody wants to ask you a question.
Okay.
Then we'll supply that information in the comments.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me today. I hope it was helpful and that you learned something. And if you ever have questions, I'm always available. I'm happy to be of service.
Thank you so much, Mindy. This was great.